Hi, everybody. Thank you for spending what I assume is for many of you your lunch hour with me to talk about the greatest movie of 2023 already. It's going to be quite a slow year for the rest of 2023 when it comes to award season, because this one's got it wrapped all up already, I think. I'm really happy to see some familiar faces, some unfamiliar faces, Cocaine Bear's face. I'm happy to see you all. Thanks for coming. This is the, I'm glad that Cocaine Bear is not speaking because, we don't want to irritate him very much. So anyway, hi, welcome. This is the first of what I intend to have be a regular occurrence once every other week. I'm going to talk about for an hour at noon on Wednesdays is the plan. This might change. We're sort of learning as we go. A little rough and ready right now, but we're going to be talking about the hot movies, TV shows, maybe even news stories that are going on in the industry in the moment. I find that because the industry is moving lightning fast these days, that sometimes the turnaround time on some of my courses means that by the time I get to talk to you guys about something, it then is no longer kind of as important as it is right now. And I think what markets are looking for and what audiences are looking for and so on, we can learn a lot from it. It's just, it happens so quickly nowadays. If I were to do Cocaine Bear a week from now, everyone's going to be talking about the Oscars next week rather than Cocaine Bear. And I think that we can learn a lot from the success of this movie. Not only why was it successful with audiences, but also what makes it so much better than you would think from such a project. So I'll talk a bit, but everyone's welcome to chime in with your thoughts. If you're someone who has not yet seen Cocaine Bear, that's fine. I'm going to endeavor to avoid spoilers. I probably can't avoid all spoilers, but there are things that I will certainly avoid. I'll avoid major plot twists. I'll avoid what any of you who have seen it will likely agree with me is the funniest thing in the movie, all told. The funniest gag in the movie is damn funny. When I saw it the other day, there were 4, 5, 6, 7 of us in the theater, including myself. And this thing happened and everybody laughed and cheered. It was this, those emotional moments of just expulsion. It was laughter and applause all at once. Like, I just love what just happened so much that people were, I can only imagine what happens in a 100-seat cinema when all 100 seats are full to watch it. Anyway, I strongly recommend seeing it. It is an extraordinarily good film. Not just a fun ride, but also extraordinarily well made and well written. And the seeing it in a cinema with a crowd is probably amazing. If you wait for streaming or video release, have some people over and don't just watch it on your own. It's a film that can be studied, but I think just as important is just going and enjoying it. It is one of the lessons that we learn from it is, for our writing, never forget the fun. Fun is so important. And even, look, there are important films to be seen. I'm going to just adjust my zoom here so I can see the chat a little bit better. So please bear with me. There we go. There are important films that are out right now. Many of the Oscar nominees are quote unquote important films. And I'm not saying that there's no artistic merit to those, of course. They are quite artistic and quite worth seeing and quite amazing. But, it's like sometimes you want to go to the Holocaust Museum and sometimes you want to ride a roller coaster. And as I don't know if any of you listen to Films to be Buried With, the podcast that the guy who plays Roy Kent in Ted Lasso does. It's a great podcast, but his guest this week said something that I think is very, very important that we all kind of remember when we're doing our writing, and that's this: nobody ever gets off a roller coaster with notes. Nobody ever says that could have been better. You're like, woohoo, yeah, adrenaline gets cooking. And this is a move, and Cocaine Bear is one that embraces the fun. So first piece of advice I give to you coming off of Cocaine Bears: never forget the fun. Okay, if you're writing a heavy drama, if you're writing a period piece, if you're writing these things that have important points to be said, people still want to have fun when they're seeing something. People still want to have a visceral experience of some kind. So don't forget and don't diminish the importance of people's visceral experiences when not only when they see the movie that eventually comes from your screenplays, but also when they read your screenplays. Reading has a visceral experience as well. We've all read books and I don't know, magazine articles and poems or whatever else that really get us jazzed up, make us laugh, and give us a thrill, or give us, or scare us, or whatever. Secondly, okay, so that's the first thing I want you to remember, is never forget the fun. This movie is fully fun. It not only does it not forget the fun, it fully embraces it as a reason to go to the cinema in the first place. You know, I see in the chat, Josh says something about he lives in a conservative town and the reaction was quite reserved, or they didn't know what to make of it. Man, I know what you're talking about. I've lived in conservative towns before where they hear something is big and then they go see it and then they are like, what the heck did I just do? This is not what movies are meant to be. What films are meant to be. That's okay, man. I think we need to embrace the things that we love, and this is something that I love. Another lesson that we can really learn from Cocaine Bear is the importance of high concept. The importance of, I mean, you've probably heard the expression a million times. You hear it from everybody who teaches screenwriting, including myself, about the value of having a high concept. And look, we don't always know exactly what high concept is. The easiest way to sort of summarize it is, if you can describe your movie in the fewer words that you need to use to describe your movie, the higher the concept is of your movie. And very often in a particularly high concept movie, the title will be the high concept. There's no doubting what Cocaine Bear is about. And the you know, I'm a pitching guy, so the pitch is the title. It's about a cocaine bear. It's called Cocaine Bear. They say, someone says, what's Cocaine Bear? You say, a bear eats a brick of cocaine and goes on a rampage. I mean, that is a fantastic pitch. You know exactly what you're getting. And it's fantastic in that anyone you would pitch something like that to, whether they're into it or not, would know for certain whether it's a yes or a no immediately. Right? It's like Snakes on a Plane. Exactly right, Sam, or Sam's script, Hen Party Massacre. It's fantastic. I read a review of Cocaine Bear that mentioned that aspect of it in a negative way, as if that is something you don't want. It's something that is very easy to market. This movie has made $30 million already. Its total budget was 35. It's going to turn a profit before its second weekend on its production costs, not including the what do you call it, the marketing and so on. But it's going to break even on its marketing cost, on its production costs, before its second weekend, before video. It's incredible for something called Cocaine Bear in a time when Avatar 2 and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania are both out at the same time. It shows you how powerful a easily conceived of high concept could be. But once you get people to go and sit in the seats, we also need to appreciate what was done with this film. Not only does it deliver on the promise of a visceral, funny, violent, essentially monster movie. I mean, what it boils right down to is Cocaine Bear is a shark. Cocaine Bear is Jaws. But it also leans very heavily into being a very good movie. Jimmy Warden, the writer of Cocaine Bear. Look, I love Elizabeth Banks. Elizabeth Banks is fantastic, and she heralds from Pittsfield, Massachusetts, which is the next town over from where I was raised. So go American Northeast. But and she's getting all the praise, all the well-deserved praise for this movie. But looking at the script specifically, Jimmy Warden says it very simply, which is what we always wanted to do with this movie was just make it fun, make it entertain the audience. And you know what? In a time where everything is very burdensome on people and things are very difficult, people want to have some fun sometimes. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have fun. There's nothing wrong with watching something just because it's delightful. He also gave another piece of advice, which I'll wrap this thing up with later on today. But among the strengths in the script for Cocaine Bear, as I saw it, were, first of all, it leans very heavily into, it's very thematically strong. Okay. We all need to recognize that having fun in a movie does not necessarily mean the movie will be cheap or beneath us or anything like that. It can be it can still be thematically strong and still deliver the fun. And I think that's what's important that we do with our writing, is still talk about what we want to say as human beings and as writers and as creators in a way that makes people desire to receive the message. So, for example, there's a very strong theme of the importance of motherhood in Cocaine Bear. I know that many of you have your cameras off, and that's fine. I know I'm interrupting your lunch hour, but if you could indicate either in the chat or somehow, whether, like, put your hands up or give me an indication if you have seen Cocaine Bear or not. Hey, good job, those of you who have. Hi, Allison. It's not in Berlin yet. Oh, you guys, oh, it's fantastic. The theme of motherhood is prevalent throughout, right? Our protagonist, Sari, played by oh man, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on names today. Thank you, Tom, for saying I can spoil it for you. Sari, played by Kerry Russell, is a mother who in the beginning of the movie, that I'm just spoiling the first few minutes now. In the beginning of the movie is, she's a single mom, and her daughter had plans to go to the national park together, but then she's met somebody new, and so she wants to go and see the new boyfriend with the daughter and do something sort of family-ish together. It's like, but you promised we had a thing. So it's like having the thing that you want, as well as being a good mom and what sacrifices you're willing to make, is a prevalent theme throughout. And those of you who have seen it will recognize that, Cocaine Bear herself has a certain amount of this kind of thing. And you know what? Look, there's nobody here who's going to be surprised. Those of you who I haven't met before probably still won't be surprised that I love the movie Aliens, the James Cameron sequel to Alien. And in Aliens, it's very, very similar in that Ripley, who has lost her daughter because she was in suspended animation throughout her daughter's entire life, misses her daughter, picks up Newt, who is a surrogate daughter for her, and then fights the alien queen, who is trying to protect her eggs as well. So it's mother against mother and this sort of thing. And you see a lot of the same sort of thing in Cocaine Bear, and it worked great in one, so there's no reason why it shouldn't work in the other. So this motherhood theme is very, very strong through it, and it brings something to the table more than just, we're going to watch the monster kill a bunch of people. That's what makes it, the monster killing a bunch of people is the delivery system by which the themes can be explored. And I think that our story points, our plot points, our character arcs, all these kind of things, we ought to start thinking of these things as delivery systems for what we're trying to say to the world. Okay, think about something that is very, very important to you in terms of messaging to the world. Is it about family? Is it about, I don't know, addiction? Is it about anything that you can think of that you bring to the table in terms of, people need to hear my thoughts on this, my examination of this, And it could be anything. I wrote a screenplay, got produced and everything, where it started off, like, this was years and years ago, but I had observed the behavior that we use technology not only to separate ourselves from each other, which a lot of people talk about. It's like everyone sits at the dinner table and diddly doos on their phone. And so there's a lot of bemoaning the fact that technology separates us, but also we use technology to bring us closer together. I have a brother, sister-in-law, and nieces and nephews who live in Anchorage, Alaska. We are 8 hours apart. And the only time we ever get to communicate with each other is when I get up first thing in the morning and they're getting ready to go to bed. And we could never do it if not for texting and social media and whatnot. So that fascinated me, that we were using technology to bring us together and separate ourselves at the same time. And I decided to inject that into a screenplay. But I didn't just have people who do that, right? I took it a step further and I was like, okay, so you start off with a protagonist who keeps her boyfriend in the next city. She doesn't want to be that close. She's not interested in that level of intimacy with somebody. But she uses technology to stay in touch with them, but also to keep them separated. So that's a good thing. And then she's driving through the desert. Her car breaks down, and when the zombies come and surround her car, the only person she can connect with is the auto repair guy, the booking guy, the tow office guy, who's in the next town over, but can't get out of his office because he's surrounded by zombies too. So now you have a zombie thriller, which we use to explore the themes that I wanted to explore, and hopefully come out the other end with some sort of a reasonable kind of solution or declaration or this, something like that. And I think that Cocaine Bear does the same. We are rooting for different characters for different reasons throughout, but it's important to recognize also that the structure is strong in the characters and all this business. Another theme that they sort of explore is they fully explore is redemption. It is definitely in Jimmy Warden's script, and it is definitely in Elizabeth Banks's direction, and it's definitely in all the characters. This notion that every character's flaw is some sort of a sin, either a major or a minor sin, right? You have killers, you have police officers, you have corrupt people, you have people who have betrayed, who've broken the rules, people with, characters who ought to be specifically dedicated to the safety of the people in the park, but instead have other priorities. And all these sins are either forgiven if they are able to grow and change, or they are paid for if the character is not able to grow and change or willing to grow and change. Characters who are unwilling or unable to atone for their sins get themselves cocaine bared, right? And the ones who are able to grow and change, maybe pay a smaller price, or maybe don't pay a price at all, or they win. But I'm talking Sari, I'm talking Eddie, I'm talking Sid, I'm talking Bob. Yes, there's a character named Bob who's fantastic. He's played by the guy who plays the city councilman on The Wire, the one who says "she" all the time. I'm talking Ranger Liz, and I am talking Cocaine Bear also. I think this is not necessarily going to be a spoiler, but one of the choices that Jimmy Warden made that I think is brilliant is that by the end, by the end of Jaws, you're not rooting for the shark. By Act 3 of Cocaine Bear, you are rooting for Cocaine Bear. Cocaine Bear's journey is from drug-addicted bear to drug-addicted hero bear. It is great. And it's funny all the way through as we see this transition. So this redemption storyline gives us something to this redemption theme gives us something to follow and appreciate and enjoy throughout the course of the story. Because, it always happens in monster movies or in splatter movies or other horror movies where, we have these moments where we're just like, ugh, why are the characters doing this? They're behaving so illogically, right? It's like, why is she going down into the basement where the killer is all by herself? We know better. That I don't find that Cocaine Bear falls victim to that. I think that the script is written in such a way where every character has clear motivations and clear agendas and clear priorities, which then come into conflict with the other people in their party. So you have this group of this subplot of characters over here, this subplot of characters over there, this subplot of characters over here, and then you have them run into each other out there in this national park and get chased by a cocaine bear. What have we always said when it comes to screenwriting? Take your characters and put them in impossible to solve situations. Chase them up a tree, throw rocks at them in the tree, and hopefully knock them out of the tree, right? So you take these characters who have the opportunity to grow and change, to atone for those sins, and then, man, you put them in the forest, not with a bear, but with a cocaine bear. So it's an issue not only of having to avoid the monster, but having to put yourself in but having to deal with other people in your party who have different sort of priorities. Some of the characters want to get the cocaine back. Some of the characters want to fall in love. Some of the characters just want to deal with their grief because they've lost somebody. Some of the characters claim to want to find the cocaine in order to serve justice, but actually want to find the cocaine in order to keep it for themselves. So you wind up in a situation where you have characters who all have different priorities crashing into each other, and then every scene becomes a push-pull tug-of-war about whose priorities are going to come out on top, and whose priorities are going to get overlooked, and whose priorities are going to change throughout the course of the thing. Very often we hear people talking about the importance of having likable characters and likable protagonists. And the challenge becomes, of course, how do you write a character who is likable, but also, despite the fact that everything they do is unlikable? A perfect example of that would be, say, Tony Soprano, who's a likable, charismatic guy, but also a mob boss who commits horrible acts of violence and betrayal, and is just impossible to sort of to like if you'd met them in real life. And I think that Jimmy Warden's script, as well as the film, does a fantastic job of making the characters not only relatable, but also very likable. And this ranges all the way from the little kids all the way up to Cocaine Bear herself, insofar as they all are charismatic. They all have funny things to say. They say things in a very creative, interesting, fun way. And each of them has their own individual, unique voice. And as I said, the priorities change. There's a scene where a character loses two of his fingers. And I see smiles from those who have seen it. When you see the movie, and when you see it, or when you see it again, if you've seen it already, take off your fun, I enjoy it hat for a moment, and put on your screenwriter analysis, why does this work hat for a moment, and recognize the power that comes from, by power, I don't mean like emotionally powerful in a Schindler's List way. I mean like the narrative power, the getting your audience on board power, the delight, the energy, the frisson that comes from just someone executing a story in a delightful way kind of power, the power that comes from how that happens and why that, and how that plot point continues throughout the rest of the movie after it happens. It is great. I saw David make a hand signal to me out there, and so I know that you're talking about exactly what I'm talking about. But it's like, guy loses his fingers. Think about the story mechanics here. You need the character to have taken some damage in order to pay for the sins, and also to further the relationship that he has with Bob the cop at the gazebo, and to sort of give him reason to change his priorities from, let's go with violent intent, to more personal intent. So it accomplishes all these things, but also the nitty gritty, the little details about how it happens is great. Okay, I mean, I fear spoilers, but I'm going to spoil this a little bit. Okay, it's literally 30 seconds of the movie. He loses his fingers. He gets shot and he loses his fingers. He loses his middle finger and his pinky finger. So now he just has these two fingers, right? And there's just a moment where it's like, oh my God, you shot off my fingers. And then he's like, how did you even shoot those fingers? They're not even next to each other. And off we go, right? It's like this little, like this with one bullet. That's right, one shot. It's like this one little fun moment of like, how did that even happen? I don't know. You didn't, and we as writers don't need to answer that question. It's more about the characters are just bewildered. The humor that comes from their bewilderment allows us to see the fun in the execution of a plot point, and also recognize that we as writers don't need to explain every single plot point or even have an explanation in our heads for it. This guy got two fingers shot off in some mysterious way. What's important is not how the fingers got shot off. What's important is that the fingers got shot off. And I think we need to recognize that in our writing, not only when it comes to things like people getting their fingers shot off, but also character motivations. Okay, if I am writing a story about a character who has a veteran who has PTSD, the PTSD itself is more important than the specific things that happened in the war that caused the PTSD that is then triggered. Probably, sometimes that's not true. Sometimes the actual events from the past do impact the story specifically. But we need to learn as writers how to interrogate that, how to interrogate what is important, for what details are important for the audience to know, or is it just important that we know who this person is now based on something that happened before? I'm watching a TV show now called Loudermilk. It's pretty good. It's about an alcoholic who's in recovery. Funny though also, and the details of his bottoming out, his lowest moment where he finally decided he had to admit his addiction, were not revealed to us until quite a ways down the road on it. More so, it was more important that he was an alcoholic than what happened. Now, of course, with the TV show, he had a little bit more room to sort of move around. But we need to be able to interrogate our stories and say, is this important? There's a reason. I know I've said this to some of you who I see in there right now, but there's a reason that I say 100% of the time, flashbacks are not necessary. The facts are 90% of the time, flashbacks are not necessary in scripts that I read. But if I tell people 99% of the time the flashbacks aren't necessary, every single writer thinks they're the exception. They're in the 1%. We need to start to recognize what is important to our story, and those things are characters and theme, right? So if your theme is you need to face the past to have a satisfying future, then maybe you need to say exactly what happened in the past, but maybe not. Maybe it's more about moving forward and accepting things that happened in your past. And it's a story about acceptance, not about the past. So when you're doing your writing, when you look at your scripts, particularly, I read a script that had flashbacks that went into there was a modern day story, but the flashbacks went into like the old timey times, the Victorian era or something. And I'm like, for these 4 scenes, you know how expensive it's going to be to have these Victorian flashbacks when you don't need them. You can tell the story in the same way without costing that kind of money. So give your characters goals and flaws to overcome, and then bring them together and let them collide with each other, put them under tremendous pressure in terms of in terms of it can be a shark, it can be an emotional impact, it can be a pandemic, it can be zombies, and it can be Cocaine Bear. It is it's great, a great point, Sam. I will mention it. Imagine if the USS Indianapolis scene in Jaws had been a flashback. It would have been about 10% as effective as it is just as a man haunted by his past telling the story. Right? Didn't need the scene. What we needed was how it motivated Quint. The USS Indianapolis experience motivated Quint to be who he is now. And as a result, who he is now made the decisions he did. I mean, don't forget the last sentence of that speech, of that monologue was, "I'll never put on a life jacket again." Right? He'd rather die, he'd rather drown than give the sharks another chance at him. So it's really powerful on an emotional level, not only that he didn't have a life jacket on, but that he met his demise by shark in the end anyway. Right? So give your characters the opportunity to stretch. I know that we hear show don't tell all the time, but show don't tell doesn't necessarily mean give us a flashback. Show don't tell can mean the impact that somebody had on a character and who they are now. You're showing the events of you're showing the consequences of the story and the consequences of the choices via the behavior of your characters and what they do. The level of confidence and commitment with which Jimmy Warden wrote Cocaine Bear is something we can all aspire to. Nothing is maybe-ish or wishy-washy-ish or less than dialed up to 11 in this script. And I don't know, of course, I don't only mean the violence, although, yeah, I mean, look, it delivers on the promise of the violence for sure. But the character choices are strong. And by strong, I don't mean the characters are strong necessarily. I mean, Warden made a strong choice. This is what the character is going to do now, and then did it. And often in unusual ways, and often in difficult to have considered ways. When that ambulance shows up in that movie, right? The people are attacked by the bear. They get back to the ranger station, call an ambulance. When that ambulance shows up, when you see the movie, man, buckle up when you see that ambulance pull up, because you are in for 10 amazing cinematic minutes, like the likes of which you have never seen before. I swear to God. And that's, I remember I said earlier, this was my favorite gag in the whole thing. Not even in that scene. It is incredible. But it's like in one of the interviews I read with Jimmy Warden, he said, "You know what? I will not consider this to be a spoiler," because he mentions it in this interview. But I think it's in the it might be in the blog that Final Draft posted in where they interviewed him. I think I saw it today. He said, essentially, I have never seen a bear running 50 miles an hour after an ambulance before, and I wanted to see that, so I put it in the movie. Rationalize what you want to see. Rationalize what's cool, or if you're not going for cool in your story, what's heartbreaking, whatever it is you're going for, scary, heartbreaking, sad, powerful, important, whatever it is you're going for in your movie, think of the best way to demonstrate that and give the audience the moment that is as cool as you think it could be in your story. I'm not kidding you guys. I went to the Picture House, Central Picture House in London. I'm a member over there. And so I walked out of Cocaine Bear, walked into the members lounge, sat down, and wrote 5 pages of my script on my laptop. It was like, I could not wait to write. It was so stimulating and so energetic. It's like, I have seen what a screenplay can be and be successful, and banged out 5 more pages. It was, and we all know writing 5 pages means rewriting the 15 pages that came before and then writing the 5 pages. He's like, oh, that's no good. Now I got to change that. But it was not inspirational in the way that, you know, if you go to somebody who says, you can do it, it's because as writers, we all hear that and we know we can do it, but we don't necessarily feel like we can do it. It was seeing something great that could have been satisfied with just being good, but chose greatness instead. It's like, okay, Cocaine Bear, everyone's going to have a laugh. Go out there and just read around about how people are talking about Cocaine Bear. A lot of people talk about it like, you know, oh yeah, I think I'll just dismiss it. I think it'll be fun. I'm going there expecting to have a good time, but not expecting anything important. This isn't gonna, like, I'm not looking at the Oscar movies or anything. This is certainly not Banshees of Inisherin, but they're taking the time to almost apologize for going to see it. When they are when you have audiences apologizing to go to see your movie, but you did not apologize for anything in your movie when you write it, that is a home run, guys. As long as you fully embrace what you're doing and don't apologize for a thing and push it out to the limits, to the outer limits, that's going to, the recipe for success is going to be that level of energy, that level of commitment, that level of confidence in your screenplay that you're going to find in the movie. Oh, look, in my notes, I even have my favorite gag written down here, and I'm not going to say it because I think it'll rob the laugh if you do. But what I am going to do is this. I'm going to take a moment just to mention, if you care to, please share that I'm doing these every other Wednesday. There won't be one next week, but there will be the one the week following, and I will announce the topic of each one on the previous Monday. So Monday I announced this, I'm doing it on Wednesday. It's going to be that quick of a turnaround. If you want to get some sort of an idea of what it's going to be, just pay attention to your social media, pay attention to your socials, and figure out what people are talking about a lot. And it'll likely be the same thing. If there's a couple or three of them that people are talking about a lot, then what can I do? I can probably only pick one, but like in the next few weeks, for example, there's a pretty decent chance I'll be talking about the season premiere of Ted Lasso when it comes out. I suspect a lot of people are going to be talking about season 3 premiere, but I'll announce it on the Monday prior. Today's the 1st, so the next one will be what, the 15th? Does that make sense? The Ides of March. And so I'll be announcing it on the 13th of March. Mandalorian maybe, Succession maybe, I'll see how everything goes. But it'll be announced on that Monday. Secondly, please share those who can't attend because it's just not convenient or whatever. Very soon after we're done here today, I don't know exactly how long this is going to take, so I can't say. It's my first time doing it, but I'll be taking this video and posting it on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. So people can watch the recording either after they've seen the movie or if they just want to like listen while they're cooking dinner or whatever, that's fine. As you can tell, I'm doing it kind of rough and ready, down and dirty, rough around the edges. That's the intent. Figure something out on Monday, talk about it on Wednesday to sort of turn it around. So yeah, I recommend, Becky, checking it out. I'm going to post now in the chat the link to subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as a couple of courses that I have coming up, including a pitch mastery class live and in person at Queen Mary's University London on the 18th. So I'll be doing this on the 15th, and then the 18th going over to Queen Mary to teach pitching. All new subject matter on pitching for 2023. So it's going to be talking about pitching via Zoom. It's going to be talking about pitching to streaming services. It's going to be talking about, I know that a lot of us get asked for pitch decks now, so we're going to do some work on developing pitch decks and the best tools to do that. We're going to do, a short amount, but not an insignificant amount on how we can use artificial intelligence to help us develop these things and develop our scripts and so on, develop our pitches so that it's almost like we have an assistant or an intern helping us, even though we can't afford to pay somebody to do that kind of thing. The normal cost for that is £105, but use that code there in the chat, pitch 50, and you get in for 50. So it's more than 50% off for that. And of course, the genre masterclass, March 11th, doing drama this week. We did horror last week. or next week, doing drama next week. We did horror last week. Going to be talking about the tools that the strategies you can use in your drama script, including including the importance of injecting things like comedy and frights and horror and so on into it. The genre masterclass series is turning out to be very enlightening for me. I'm learning a lot. I'm seeing a lot of movies and stuff that I hadn't seen before, and I'm learning a lot and hoping to pass along my experience to you. The last comment that I have, and hopefully you guys have some questions or comments of your own, is just a quote from Jimmy Warden himself, where he says, "Writing a spec is the only time you don't have a boss. You're your own boss and you own that piece of material. You need to make sure you're really proud of it. Don't write it for anyone else. Don't write it for anyone else." I'm going to underscore that with my tone. I get a lot of questions from writers, potential writers, aspiring writers, say, like, what should I worry about my audience? Should I be writing for young people? Should I be writing animation for kids? Should I? And this is incredibly wise advice from Jimmy Warden. Don't write it for anyone else. It has to be something that you're proud of. If you want to see it, chances are other people will want to see it too. So you are your audience. I write for 13-year-old Bob. If me as a teenager, if me as a 13-year-old would think, oh, that's cool, I consider that a success in the writing. So figure out who you're writing for, but it ought to be something that you are extraordinarily proud of. And just what you owe the world is not necessarily what the world thinks it wants. What you owe the world is what is your best work in the way that you believe in it the most. And it's the thing that you definitely want to see. It is crucial that you focus on yourself as your audience first. Because once you're done writing it, you're going to have to be the one who goes out there and champions it. And if you've made compromises, it's going to be more difficult for you to champion it. It is a victory to have a project where people say, I will never see that movie, but man, have I got to read it. Or when people start laughing at what you're doing. You know what's a good example of things going well is when you tell people your idea and they immediately start pitching things back to you. I've got this, I don't know, I'm making this up now. I've got this screenplay about a bear who eats a brick of cocaine. And people start going, oh, does that mean that he, we'll go the other way. I got this story about a bear who eats a pound of marijuana. And so then people are like, oh, that must be great. The scene where I bet there's a scene where he eats a whole bunch of honey, this kind of thing. And if people get like roped into your concept that fast, then you got something going there, and only you can believe in it at the beginning. So therefore you must believe it at the beginning. Does anyone have any screenwriting, cocaine bear, any kind of comments or questions you'd like to chime in with? Just unmute and shout them out. Oh, come on! I know some of you have seen it. You want to have a moment of like, oh, that's so cool. You want to give me any?
Yeah, I live in Dublin.
Hi, Tara.
Hi. I actually went with two friends, and it was kind of, I haven't seen stuff recently because the International Film Festival is on. Anyway, so I went with two friends, and it was like, oh, feck's sake, man. I'll just go and see, Cocaine Bear, wherever, and I really was expecting it to be shit. So,
yeah.
I mean, I really was. And then afterwards, the three of us were standing in the cinema and we're discussing it. And I think all of us, so we had like one guy who's a regular cinema goer, but wouldn't be, trained in writing or anything like that. And then, and we were all kind of almost shocked at how good it was. But I think you're right, because afterwards I was thinking, why you really start siding with the bear, which you don't expect to do.
Yeah.
I don't want to give too much away because you know, and then what you were saying about the guy who gets his 2 fingers, you know, like shot off. And that does no kind of like, how the fuck did that happen? There's no explanation, and it just brushes over that. But as an audience, you just accept it. You know, it's not one of those films like, oh, for feck's sake, man, you know, what are they talking about? So yes, I really enjoyed it. And I was kind of afterwards, I think, like, why did I enjoy it so much? But I think the other thing about you saying about the writing is that it doesn't flag, because sometimes you get movies and they kind of flag in the middle. And they just keep the pace. Plus, they had some very good actors, because they got Margot. Was it
Margulies?
Yeah, she's just great. You know, so the casting was very good. The only thing is they had O'Shea Jackson Jr. And I was looking at him and I was thinking, oh, he's, you know, what's his name, son. So that's what I was thinking. He looks like him.
Yeah.
And I know what's his, not Ice.
Ice Cube.
Ice Cube, yeah. So that was a distraction for me, because I was thinking, oh yeah, you know, straight out of Compton, he played his dad. And so I kind of got a bit distracted by that, you know, thinking, oh, what's his name? What's his real Ice Cube? What's his real name? Because that's his son. So that could be me, you know. But yeah, no, I thought it was really, you know, like one of my friends who normally comes with me, she said, oh no, I don't want to see, it's going to be a horrible film about a bear who eats too much cocaine and then they kill the bear. And that's what she said. And I don't want to see, you know, like an animal being abused. But when I saw it, so anyway, I've told her now she has to go and see it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, look, thank you, Tara. I'm extraordinarily chuffed to hear you say all that, because it's what's interesting about your response and your friend's response to having seen the movie is that it's, you know, people who aren't necessarily trained up in writing or trained up in film analysis or story analysis or anything will have this response. That really worked, and I don't know why. You know, it's like when someone like me who is not particularly trained in, like, say, cookery will enjoy a meal and say, that was really great. And they'll say, and someone can say, yes, because of the way that they blanched the onions and they did this other thing about, and give me 15 different reasons. And the real reason is, but what matters is someone who's not trained in such things can't identify the strings above the puppet, but it still works for people who are so trained. And I think that it's probably going to have a very good second weekend as well, because of the word of mouth coming out of people like me, but also people like you, Tara, to your friend who's like, no, don't worry. All your concerns are not going to come to pass. You know, it's, I think a lot of people, look, I went in with you know, do you know how rare it is? I mean, I watch a lot of stuff because of my job. And you know how rare it is for my expectations to be here and to still be pleasantly surprised? And that's exactly what happened. So people who are going to see the movie anyway, like you did, Tara, despite the fact that you worried that it was going to be shitty, and seeing it anyway, are coming out as full-blown advocates for the movie. It's like, no, you don't get it. Please join me in my joy, you know? And I think that it's fantastic. Any of you who have seen it or who don't mind being spoiled, who want to know what I thought was the funniest gag in the entire movie, drop me a private message or hit me up on Facebook Messenger or on WhatsApp or whatever, and I'll tell you what I thought it was. But it's but I don't want to give that one away, because I think that more people will enjoy it without. Tara, could you just remute so that we don't get interrupted by any noises? Mike, I saw you unmute a couple times. Do you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I just came out of it. But first of all, Bob, thanks for today. And so many things you're saying, I was thinking exactly the same when I came out of it. And you know, the first person I thought about was you, because I knew you'd love this film. And you know, you talk about be entertaining. This film is just entertaining, like non-stop. And I came out thinking, shit, if this guy can write this, I can write whatever I want. And you know, and have the confidence to be able to do wacky, crazy, over the top stuff. And ever since I came out, I've been telling all my friends about it, you know, and you get sometimes you get people go, oh, it's not my kind of thing, you know, it's being hyped up. It's like, what do you know about it? I don't know. Well,
Yeah.
why are you giving me that response? Go and see it. And it's the best film I've seen in a long time, and I know it's going to be the best film that I'm going to see this year.
If I didn't,
Fantastic.
I mean, getting that writing done was great, but I'm not kidding. I would have gladly walked right out of the cinema, gotten in the queue, and gotten in to see it again. You know, immediately. It was just such a tremendous amount of fun. Like you see people do at Disneyland. They get off Space Mountain, they go off, they get the back of the queue and do Space Mountain again. It is full of the art and the joy of writing, and the art and the joy of filmmaking, and the art and the joy of film watching. As somebody who's sort of become a bit of a professional appreciator of things, I can just do nothing but advocate for the film and ask you to do the same. Word of mouth is very important, but also please word of mouth these sessions so that we can grow this audience on every other Wednesday at noon. Anyone else want to praise or contradict me on Cocaine Bear? Did anyone come out of it not liking it? That's fine too. David?
I loved it, obviously, but I just thought it was a really, really clever script. It's got a whole bunch of disparate characters who are all delinquent in their duties one way or another, the cop, the parent, and they're all kind of thrown together somewhat abruptly in the forest, and it just sort of just gradually works its way to a very tying them all together and ending up where it ends up. And it's just like you can see the ending coming about 10 minutes from the end, and it's like when you want it to happen, it's all drawn itself. Everything has led to this bit at the end. It's just a really, really clever script. Simple, but clever, really clever, I thought.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's clever, and you know, we say simple as if it is as if it is a bug in a screenplay, when actually simple is a feature.
Yeah.
In a screenplay.
Clarity, right?
I'm sorry, clarity. Yes. Simplicity is clarity, and you write characters who have nuance, and characters who have challenges and have the opportunity to grow and change. And then some of them do and some of them don't. But the old maxim is true, particularly in something like Cocaine Bear, which I predict is going to be a giant financial hit, as well as an artistic hit, as well as a visceral hit, which is if you write your screenplays with simple stories, complicated characters, it is a formula that works for comedy. It's a formula that works for horror, for drama, for period pieces, for found footage films. Simple stories, complicated characters is the formula that works. If you need to take 5-10 minutes to tell me everything I need to know about your story, I am checked out after 10 seconds. Right? Everyone in the world knows what cocaine is. Everyone in the world knows what a bear is. And if you don't know what either of those things are, then you'll find out in the first 5 minutes of the movie. so you're set to go. Anyone else? Okay, we're just about almost done with our hour, so I'll wrap it up. Oh, Georgina, you asked in the chat who wrote it is a fellow by the name of Jimmy Warden. Jimmy Warden also wrote a horror movie, I guess, kind of more of an actiony horror movie. I think it's on Netflix. It's somewhere out there. I saw it on a streaming service called The Babysitter, which is fantastic. And I have not yet seen the Babysitter sequel, but he also wrote that. So that's on my to-watch list for sure. So good lesson to be taken from writers. You come out of a movie written by somebody and you really like the script, the next thing you do is Google them or go on IMDb Pro, find out what else they wrote, and see those stuff too. So the more that you can sort of build an audience and build a fan base, it comes from writing greatness that makes people excited to advocate for them. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you for sharing your lunch break with me, or going to lunch now, either way. Please, I'll send out in all the usual outlets when it's up on YouTube. And I'll see, hopefully, all of you in 2 weeks' time. Take good care, stay safe. Wakanda forever. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Bob.